What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are at Variety Coffee in Brooklyn today, and today we are here with Steve of Wolves of the Gate. Thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. Your newest record, Eclipse, is absolutely beautiful. Do you just want to give a rundown on how the making of this record was and the record cycle thus far?
Yeah, so we decided this time around to actually produce the record ourselves, which was a big change for us. But it was awesome because we just had a pretty clear understanding of like what we wanted our record and our band to sound like sonically. But the other part, that was important is that we knew what our strengths were. We also knew what our weaknesses were. So we went and recorded drums with Mike Watts at his studio, Voodoo Studios, in Long Island. He's done great records, and he's a great engineer, great producer, great drum guy as well too, because he's his drummer himself. So went and did drums there, and then did the rest ourselves after that. And we're like really excited with how it turned out, and yeah, we're just pumped for everybody to hear it.
Being that you produced the record yourselves and you pretty much did everything DIY, couldn't people may notice a difference in sound on this record as opposed to your previous ones because you didn't really have much outside input?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I think certain things will sound different, but what's interesting is I think these songs had the most care they've ever had. It's not to say anything about the other producers we've ever worked with, because they all every producer we work with has loved our band, and they've been so supportive. But there's also time constraints always, when you're making a record. Most of the times you have like 4, 5, 6 weeks, and you can't always do some of the minutia of what you want to as a band and as an artist. You don't always have time for that, and so doing it ourselves, like I was able to just go crazy on taking time fixing guitar tones and screwing around with different things, and for us testing different guitars and different microphones for my vocals and different pickups and different strings. Like we could do all the stuff that we've always wanted to do with no time constraint because it was on us to complete it.
Absolutely. Now, I thought that, your music is fairly experimental. I thought Wolves at the Gate, has elements of post-hardcore, some metalcore, some progressive elements in there. It's fair to say that you guys like to experiment and try new things, right? You don't necessarily stick to a formula or a template.
Yeah, we've never been good at being labeled in a certain genre, not because we think we're like incredible, just because we kind of touch different genres all the time. Like there's songs that might sound like rock or punk rock, and there might be songs that sound like metalcore, or a song that sounds like post-hardcore. It's just the influences we have are so broad, and it just comes out and especially for this record, I just wanted it to be as broad as these are what our influences are, and just not shy away from just what we like. Very
interesting. Now, is there ever a concept or a subject matter that Wolves of the Gate likes to tackle in certain songs or albums, and maybe that could help determine the outcome of the music, or lyrics and what the song is about always just secondary?
Yeah, so it's one or the other. So sometimes I'll come up with a lyrical idea, and that inspires music, which is a lot of fun because, it's cool when the lyrics can kind of dictate the feel. Because what normally happens is the music, the way the music sounds dictates kind of how you write the lyrics. And so I would say probably 75% of the time the music is what inspires the lyrical content in the tone of it, or the kind of direction you would go lyrically. But 25% of the time I've just written things that just kind of things that I'm feeling or thinking about, and just putting pen to paper and then going, man, I need to make a song out of this. In regards to content, a lot of the music really just revolves around my faith, and it's a journey. It's a complete and total journey. The things that I thought about God, or I thought about myself back when we did our first record in 2010 or something, it's just so different than now. And touring, you learn so much about people, and you learn how to connect to people, and that's what's so important to us. My faith has had such a huge impact in my life, and I want people to have to understand that for themselves, and trying to find ways to help communicate these truths, these truths of what I believe is a good message, the gospel message, and finding ways to communicate that to people, and to find where they're at and reach them in that way. And so, yeah, I've learned a lot through touring and meeting other bands too, talking to them. So it's just been a journey, but it's cool to yeah, it's a cool ride to go on.
Do you like to? You kind of led me into the next question because you clearly have like a influence, like your faith and stuff like that. Is your music? Can it be open to interpretation, or are you trying to maybe get the listener to sort of see things from your point of view and maybe kind of put yourself in your position?
So what I would say is there's definitely I have a clear intention and a clear message in my mind, and sometimes people can take our lyrics, and I think at times sometimes they could be what I would say misappropriated, just like what any artist would say, like that wasn't my intention, and maybe it might be a bad way to interpret it. But there is a clear message I do want to communicate, but at the same time, there are ways that I've heard people come up and say, like, this song made this impact in my life, and I would have never guessed that would have helped that person in that way, and I'm just so thankful for it. Because really the big thing is we want to help give people hope, and help people understand that in our culture, Christianity is not very well communicated or projected. Everything you see in the news is purely hate and politically driven, and theologically just completely wrong. And so if somebody gets even just the smallest tidbit of a better understanding of who God is and who Jesus is and actually what he did, we're like super grateful for that, because we just feel that as Americans and Christian Americans have not done a great job at all of helping people understand what the true message of Christianity is.
Can somebody coming up to you and telling you what they got out of that song, even if it was not in your state of mind when you were first writing it, does that change your perspective on your own art? Because I know that you clearly do have a message behind it, but I mean, when somebody tells you that your art makes an impact on them, it has to maybe make you look at your own art a little bit differently, right?
Oh yeah, totally. And in some ways it's like really helpful, because it helps me see how people take the things that I say, and you know, in an artistic way, and also just in a pure like communicative sort of way, you know, how well I am doing at communicating. But also artistically, it is really cool. Like, it's cool, like we have songs that are kind of like completely imagery based and like allegories, and like a song like The Bird and the Snake, where it's just almost like a nursery rhyme almost, and it's really cool just to see what people get from that kind of allegory. And people ask me all the time, why did you write it? And they usually share what their thoughts are, and I'm like, wow, it's really cool that you got that out of it. Well, this is why I wrote it. And they're usually close-ish, but it's so cool to kind of see how that can have an impact on people in that way. And usually they're not far off from the meaning, it's just the way that it's applied is different. So it's cool.
Very interesting. Now, when it comes to executing the material live, you know, this is my first time seeing Wolves at the Gate tonight. I'm really excited to do it. Do you like to maybe execute the material exactly how people are hearing it on the album, or do you like to maybe intentionally make the live experience a little bit of a different experience than just simply listening to your music?
Yeah, so like in the realm of like, there aren't like sections of songs that we change, but the thing that, you know, as a musician, there's just so many things that you end up just doing naturally different live. Like our drummer Abishai is just like, he's phenomenal, you know, and he has fun, and I love that he does. And sometimes he'll add something in there or do something different, which is great. And for me as a singer and a guitar player, there's just times where you're just feeling something different and you just kind of go for it, you know. Even vocally, like I might, instead of ending a line a certain way, I'll end it with a scream, because I'm just like so into what we're doing and like what I'm saying and the message of the song. And so there's ways in which our songs are all kind of like a little different, just because the live energy is so much different than like a studio energy. You're trying to be clinical in the studio, but live, like we just want to put on a show. We want people to feel what we're doing, you know.
I think when you're playing live, you have to, like, you know, if you're playing in the studio trying to make a record done, you intentionally don't want to mess up. But when if you mess up live, there's just something so organic about it that it's totally cool.
Well, it's funny, you know, that's how I learned how to scream, was playing live shows, you know, because I mostly do clean singing, but I always wanted to scream, and I could never get myself to do it outside of like a live setting. And it was just because the, you know, adrenaline and the energy. And then, you know, just one show, I just remember I let it out, and it was like proper technique. I didn't like blow up my voice, and so I was like, oh, this is exciting, you know. And so, yeah, it is. We love the live show. It's fun.
And the final question I'd like to ask you is, and this is always the most difficult question for every musician I ask, and that's why I love doing it. It's practically trolling at this point. But how do you know when a song is done?
When we all say it's done.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because everybody's input is always valuable because regardless of the fact that everyone's a musician in their own right, everyone listens to music. And really what we do is we try and listen back through the songs and go like, all right, is there anything that you're hearing that you don't like? And have guys make a list and go, I wasn't really crazy about this or about that or about this. And we'll go make little tweaks, and maybe it makes it better, maybe it makes it worse, and so we go back. So really we try to do it that way, and at the end of the day, as long as like it feels good, it's kind of like there's no scientific metric, you know, because some people could look at one of our songs and say it could have been better and vice versa, you know, but that's kind of what makes art, you know. Like you could look at a painting and go like, I don't know, I feel like that could have looked cooler if it wasn't so X, Y, or Z, but it's like that's what makes it art. The artist was done, you know. And so for us, it's like we feel satisfied with the song, and we've taken as far as we can. So
That was actually probably the best answer I've ever gotten for that question. One person literally said, when I get the final mixes back. Which is legit. I mean,
that is a very literal answer, and that's accurate.
So before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for your time today. It's going to be a great show tonight. Is there just anything out with the Eclipse record cycle that you would like to promote in terms of shows or tours? This will be uploaded by midnight, so if it hasn't been announced yet, don't say it.
Yeah, well, the record comes out July 26th, you know, and so I'm excited for people to give that a listen, and and then after that, you know, our goal is to just do some more touring. You know, we took a little break off from touring. So my wife and I had twins, and they're just about to turn 3, so they're at a better age, you know, before.
They could stay in the house alone, right?
Yeah, yeah, we'll leave them at home. Yeah, but just keep your eyes out for tour dates. We've got some music videos coming out that we're waiting to roll out, and so still tons of stuff. You know, we're gonna put out acoustic versions of songs from the record. Things are just going to keep coming, so keep your eyes peeled.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Steve. Everybody, we are here with Wolves at the Gate, Eclipse, out July 26th. Be sure to pick that up. And this is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.